Good morning, everyone. It's good to be back. Our Tuesday talk today, the Heart, Health Empowerment Reset. Before I begin, I'd like to read the disclaimer that any information we provide today, just for information purpose only. It is not to diagnose, treat, cure any disease, condition, or illness. So please talk to your primary care provider if you want to make any changes to your care plan. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Martha King, and I'm a health coach here in Hanover, Pennsylvania.
I'm Dr. DeWart Ray, and I'm a gut health specialist here in Hanover, Pennsylvania.
And I'm Asha Scatcherd. I have a healing practice in York, Pennsylvania. It's my website, Energy Body Works, and I'm a certified Brennan Healing Science practitioner. Martha?
Thank you. Thank you. Well, today we're excited, like always, every Tuesday. But our topic today is very, very special. It's a heartful approach to life, which many people don't know what it is. We'll always talk about mindful, always think about the mind, the brain, but this is about the heart. And being centered and being in that balance of always sort of want to make decisions from the heart approach, it doesn't get us in trouble most of the time. So when we look at about the heart, I think about heart-centered approach. It's about different qualities that we have to acquire: being compassion, being truthful to yourself, being one of the things is about love is another quality. But anyway, so this time I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Jay.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Thimmapuram. I'm one of the internal medicine physicians at Wellspan York Hospital. I'm also a practitioner of meditation. I've been doing this meditation practice called Heartfulness, which is a simple heart-based meditation practice. And I've been doing this for a little over 2 decades. And I found that to be very helpful to navigate through the ups and downs of life, which are inevitable, and something that can help us live our life in a reasonably serene way, I would say. Martha?
Well, actually, you have the floor, so you go right ahead.
Okay, awesome. So if I have to share my story to begin with, when I was growing up, I used to watch my dad simply sit down, close his eyes, and just be with himself. He's a retired professor of zoology now. And not only he was doing it by himself, but some of his friends also used to come home. They all used to sit down, close their eyes, and do nothing. And this used to puzzle me. And one day, I asked him, it almost looked funny, how people can just sit down, close their eyes, and do nothing. So I asked him what this was all about, what this business of doing nothing was all about. And he looked at me, he smiled, and he said, well, if you want to find out what this nothing is all about, try doing nothing for some time and see what it can do for you. And that's how I started diving a little deeper into these practices of meditation, which is nothing but a practice to train your mind. That's all it is. So when I started this meditation practice, what I did was I sat down, closed my eyes, and gently rested my attention on something good within my own heart. Let us call it a source of light within our hearts, right? But it was not anything like what people talk about. People talk about meditation as being something wonderful. You feel so good, as if you're floating on the clouds. Not at the beginning. It's not something that I experienced. Sometimes I felt as if I had to open my eyes and run away. Right? And this is how I felt in the beginning. But the good thing that I did was I followed what my dad said. Give it a good try, about 4 to 6 weeks, and see what it can do to you. And if it is something that helps you, carry on with it. If it doesn't help you, it's okay. You've tried something and you've learned something from it, and you can make your future choices based on that. And when I was doing this practice initially, though it was a little difficult for me to carry on, I meditated for short periods of time that I was comfortable with. Maybe putting a timer for maybe 15 minutes and close my eyes and just try to be in that space within my own heart. But in addition to that, I was also trying to experiment with meditating with trainers of heartfulness practice. 4 weeks down the lane, I was trying to meditate with a trainer in heartfulness, and it was a wonderful session. It was that session that changed my understanding about these practices of meditation. It almost felt as if my mind was removed during that half an hour session, dipped in pure water and put back in again. Such an experience I never had before. Such a clarity of mind I never experienced before. And this is what made me think, you know what, there must be something to these practices of training your mind or meditation. And that kept me going. But again, a few days later, your mind still starts to question, saying that maybe it's just your imagination. There's absolutely nothing to do with these practices of meditation. But deep within, you have this feeling that, you know, that was something special. So as I kept on practicing it, I found out that it's not only a subjective experience that we have, but also the objective way in which we deal with life, the way in which we deal with our environment, our friends and family members, the feedback that we get from them also starts to change. And you begin to feel that you're probably dealing with life in a much better way than what you were dealing with before. And I'm also a physician with a strong inclination towards science. And these are the practices that often are distanced from science, but now with this day and age, they're both coming together to see how science can show that the practices that have been suggested to us throughout humanity, human history, they are actually helpful even from a scientific point of view. And I am a physician, and as one of the modern problems that we have, it has been there throughout, but probably much more than what it had been, is stress. And stress has been a part and parcel of everyone's life for some time now. And especially with this COVID season, the stress levels have gone up significantly higher, and we are dealing with a new situation that we have not dealt with before. And as a physician and as someone with scientific background, one of my colleagues asked me, Dr. J, I know you meditate. Can you do something with our colleagues, with our resident physicians, with our faculty members, with our nurses to see how their stress levels are and if the practices of meditation can help them? So what we did was we offered this practice of heartfulness meditation to a group of nurses, a group of physicians and faculty members, resident physicians and faculty members, and we offered this practice for 12 weeks. We had two groups, a group that practiced heartfulness meditation for 12 weeks and another group carried on with the usual available services such as EAP services or employee assistance program services. We measured their burnout scores, we measured their stress levels, and we also measured something called a telomere length. And I'll talk about telomere length in a minute. But what we found out was that with 12 weeks of heartfulness practice, we saw that their burnout scores, their emotional exhaustion, their depersonalization or cynicism, and their sense of personal accomplishment, all of them improved in the direction that we wanted to. And the result was significant, by which I mean that it was statistically significant, and the comments that we also received were very positive. The other group that did not participate in meditation, we did not see any of these changes. And as someone from a scientific background would say, is there any objective proof, right? So we measured this telomere length, which is like a cap at the end of our chromosomal DNA. And in general, if we are living a healthy lifestyle, the telomere length is preserved. Under stress or under unhealthy lifestyles, the telomere length shrinks. And this telomere length is also linked with longevity, how long we live, right? And we found out that with 12 weeks of heartfulness meditation practice, we found out that the telomere length, especially in the younger population, increased, and the result was statistically significant. This was very interesting and amazing finding, at least from my standpoint, because it not only confirmed that subjectively people were feeling good, but even from a physiology point of view, even from a body health point of view, things were showing signs of improvement. And this study we published in 2017. And we also wanted to explore what these practices of meditation can do to sleep. Sleep is one of our fundamental factors of well-being, and we feel it. Imagine a night when you have not slept well. In the morning, you're grumpy. You don't want to be near anyone. Nobody wants to be near you. They want to run away from you, right? But imagine a night when you have had a good night's sleep. In the morning, you're a better person. You can perform better. Your thinking is clear and you're kinder, perhaps. So what we did was we took patients with chronic insomnia, those who have sleep problems, and we offered heartfulness practice for 8 weeks. We had around 32 participants who finished 8 weeks of heartfulness practice. And we saw that their insomnia scores came down by more than half, from a score of 20.9, which was a mean score, and to a score of 10.4, more than 10-point drop in their insomnia scores. It was not just the scores that were significant, even the stories that they shared were very significant. Some of them said, Dr. J, we were only able to sleep for 4 hours before. Now we are able to sleep for 7 hours, 8 hours, because of which our dreams have come back. Something that I did not know before. Because they were sleeping for a shorter duration, they were not getting into the stage where dreams occur. But as the duration of sleep and their quality of sleep improved, they were able to get into the REM stage where dreams occurred. And for them, it was a joy. They shared it with so much joy that their dreams have come back. The other finding that we saw was that some of them, a significant proportion of them, were on sleeping pills. And by the end of 8 weeks, we saw that around 75% of them were able to slowly come off of their sleeping pills. As a clinician, it makes me very happy to see that they were able to sleep on their own without the need for medications that they were needing earlier on. But having said that, this was a study that we measured within an 8-week period. I do not know if they went back on those sleeping pills later on, but at least it's a ray of hope that there is something that we can do for ourselves to improve our own well-being. The other thing that we did was we offered this to our resident physicians to see what it did to their sleep. And we saw that with practice of heartfulness, they were able to sleep much faster. Initially, it took around 21 minutes on an average for them to fall asleep. And when we measured their sleep with actigraphy watches that records their sleep, when they were practicing meditation for a week, they were able to sleep much faster within 14.5 minutes. So for another 7 minutes, they didn't have to stare at the ceiling. And falling asleep much faster is something that we all long for. And this is what the practices of meditation has offered. So this is what we did from a research standpoint. But in general, from a personal point of view, this not only offered a sense of physical well-being, but it goes much deeper into other dimensions of wellness, mental well-being, emotional well-being, and even spiritual well-being, which is one of our deeper aspects of our wellness. And heartfulness is all about connecting with the best of ourselves, our own hearts. And how we do it is we try to listen to our heart by gently closing our eyes and resting our attention on something good within our own hearts. And as you mentioned, Martha, the qualities of the heart, compassion, empathy, love, so many other good qualities, right? They all reside within our own hearts, and we all know intuitively that this is who we are as human beings. How do we access it? How do we make it come outside? Things that are hidden deep inside our own selves. The simple answer is get in touch with it on a regular basis. Become familiar with your own self, and familiarizing with your own self, with your own qualities of your heart, is what heartfulness is all about. It is all about leading a life in a heartful way, and just by being in touch with your own deeper intrinsic goodness of your heart on a regular basis will help manifest those qualities into the external world, and you become comfortable with your own self. Sometimes my residents ask me, what is this business of closing your eyes all about? And I tell them, when you close your eyes, it feels as if you're doing nothing. But in fact, you're doing something very important, perhaps the most important thing that you can do. You are putting up with your own self. And then you realize that it is not so easy to put up with your own self. And if it is so difficult to put up with your own self, how do you expect others to put up with you?
Mhm.
But as we keep practicing meditation, resting our attention on the best within ourselves, it becomes a little easier to be with ourselves. And when it becomes a little easier to be with our own selves, we become comfortable and almost at ease with our own selves. And when we are at ease with our own selves, it becomes possible for us to be at ease with others, and for others to be at ease with us. Relationships tend to grow, harmony tends to grow, and heart begins to lead our lives. And then we realize that we need the intellect, but if this intellect can be guided in a proper way, when that barometer is proper, life becomes a little easier. And this is what heartfulness is all about, and this is what we have been teaching our residents. And I'm happy to say that our residents, our patients, actually love this approach of meditation, because it takes us back to the simplicity of life. We have made it so complex, and just it takes a little time to go back to the simplicity of life and see what that simplicity of life has to offer. And that simple and pure nature is there in all our hearts. And as long as we are able to recognize it and say that this is something that we are, and just bring it out and lead our lives, we will be not only helping ourselves, but we will also be able to help everyone else in our existence. Whoever comes into our orbit will probably be able to benefit from who we are. And it is not something that we intentionally do, but it's almost like a flower radiates its fragrance. It doesn't consciously do it, but it becomes that radiant flower, and it radiates. And in a similar way, if we are able to change our intrinsic nature into a better version of our own selves, we radiate who we are all the time. And we will be able to radiate our better intrinsic nature when we refine our own selves. And heartfulness plays a significant role in this practice. So I have to share. I think I covered quite a bit. It's 20 minutes, I think.
This
If
is
you have any questions, I'll be very happy to answer.
this is good. Couple of things. I guess another quality I want to add to it would be forgiveness.
Mhm.
When I think about the heart center approach on anything, and there's such a freedom when we do that. You know, when we first to begin to forgive ourselves, and then be able to forgive others around us. When you talk about telomeres, how they were measured, how was that measured? Did you do like a blood test?
So that's a great question. What we did was we collected salivary samples. And in saliva, we do have the cells, and those cells can be extracted. And from those cells, DNA can be extracted.
Okay.
What we did was we collected the samples and we sent it to University of Pennsylvania, where the DNA was extracted. And from University of Pennsylvania, this extracted DNA was preserved in dry ice. and sent over to University of Washington, Seattle, where telomere analysis was performed. And the results were sent back to me. And those who were performing the analysis did not know which group the participants belonged to. So it was a very objective way of analysis of the telomere length. All they had was numbers on the samples.
Mhm.
So when the results were sent back to me, all I had to do was arrange them according to age. And this is what I found. And it was just, I was pleasantly surprised to see this result.
That's I was just wondering, if it was measured through a blood test, but saliva test, that's does anybody have any other comments?
I think it's wonderful how science is bridging the ancient teachings, the ancient wisdom teachings. I love that. And I also love your passion about your work. And the thing that I have found with myself in meditating, which has been a long time, the point when your mind becomes still, and that stillness can be taken into your everyday life, and you really change. It's really magical, but yet it's very real. And I have no idea when that point came in my life where all of a sudden my mind was still. But it does happen. You just have to stick with it.
Yes. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. And the beauty of it is there in everyone.
Right.
It is there in everyone. And just as you said, sticking with it is the key. Consistency is the key.
Yeah,
I think
go ahead, Julie.
I was going to say, I think it's great that you did the studies. I actually would be interested in seeing the follow-up study of the one where people that you were studying were not doing sleeping pills. I know you said you weren't sure after the 8-week study if they continued to meditate, if they were able to stay off of them or not, but I think that'd be a cool study to follow up on. And see how long people can go with the meditation practices and if they can stay off of sleeping pills. I think right now, like you said earlier, that's such a big thing in our society right now. Everybody's overworked, overstressed. And I think there's probably more people that are, relying on either sleeping pills or some sort of melatonin or something to help them sleep. And I hope those people are listening to this presentation and maybe start thinking about other ways that they can and try to sleep better, but also minimize the use of medication or supplements if they're out there using them. So I appreciate the presentation. Thank you for coming and talking to us about this very important topic. And I think would be good to talk about again in the future. So hopefully you come back and talk to us more about it.
Sure.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I really like what you said, the follow-up of what has happened and what happens in the future, right? That would be a very good thing to look into. And we were planning on doing that with the COVID season. We had to, halt that thought. So at some point, I think we will be doing that, and that's going to be very important.
I wanted to add what Asha said, being still. And one of the mantras that I use, and which has happened, that you sit still long enough until you don't exist. I don't know how to explain that, but there's just something that you just sit there until you don't exist, until you're, you just become this something unexplainable, I guess. Yeah.
And I think that, Martha, the longer you practice, the easier that is to do. I think some people, when you say you have to stay still for a certain amount of time, that's different for everybody. And I know when I first started meditating, it seemed like it took forever and ever, and I don't have hours to sit, right? But as you become more in the practice of doing it more often, it does become quicker where you can sit and really be just still.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. But I also learned that for everyone out there listening, that you get to a point where you don't have to be sitting still somewhere in a chair. When you begin to be in that mode of being center approach, whether if you're talking to someone, or if maybe you're driving somewhere and then you feel aggravated by traffic or something, just begin to go back to your heart space and just become very relaxed and very approachable about what's happening that you don't have control of. You just allow that to unfold, whatever. So I just wanted to, to add that as well, that so people don't think they gotta always be sitting on a chair somewhere. Eventually, when you go back and always go back to that center approach to the heart. I know another thing I want to add real quick, when people, I think will help people to just sort of relate the heart. I think many times it helps if you begin to be aware of your heartbeat, rather than being focused on your breath. Of course, is very important as well. But if, knowing that that heart belongs to the muscle there, to, the beating sound, and start to associate that, and you just feel like you're overexhausted or overwhelmed, just go back and just, slowly go back to the center approach by listening to your heartbeat. But I was just want to add to it.
Make a great point, and I think that's a great point you just made about if you're sitting in traffic and you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed about going back to the mind. Think about what that does to somebody's blood pressure, their anxiety, their stress. If we have that, that ability to go, I need to bring it back down a little bit, you do see those physical effects in their, blood pressure comes down, their anxiety starts to diminish. All of these things start to happen that really help them not only bring it down a couple notches, but helps their overall health. And that's what this is really all about, right? So thank you for pointing that out, Martha. That was great.
Yeah, thank you. Well, our time right now. And so we're excited to let you know that our summit's coming up next month. And Dr. J is going to be one of our speakers. So we're real excited about that. And you don't want to miss that. Again, that's September 14th through the 17th. We're going to have a morning and afternoon session. Just check our Facebook page. And every day, we're going to have information as it comes out. So anyway, I thank you all, everyone, for your time. And
Martha,
yes?
Where is Dr. J located?
Wait, yeah, he mentioned at the beginning, but go ahead.
I didn't hear. I must have missed it. Where is he located?
Good. Yeah.
I'm in York, Pennsylvania,
Okay.
and been here for over a decade now. And one more thing that I may want to mention is if people want to find out a little bit more about heartfulness practice, there is a website that people can explore. It's called heartfulness.org. That's something that if people are interested to explore what this meditation is, it is free of cost, and anyone anywhere can tune in and try it on their own and see how it feels like. There's heartfulnessinstitute.org, which is from a corporate point of view or from a working professional point of view. If you want to explore that, that's also good.
Good.
Thank you, Asha, for
Thank you.
refresh time bringing. You want to make sure that everybody is aware of that website, of course. So, all right, our time right now. So we want to thank everyone, and there will be another episode for next Tuesday, and then we're going to take a break for a few weeks as we prepare for the summit. But just keep eye on our post on Facebook. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.